Okay. Reading Center is up here for people to check, same one we had the other day. We are at a, what should I say, what's a good vocabulary word I could give you? We are at an important juncture in this class. It's this topic, main idea, topic, sentence issue that, as I told you guys, the book wants you to do it in one chapter. And I keep drawing it out. Let's see. Okay. So let me write some stuff up here. Sorry I was a little bit late. Okay, so we are right here. This is the best way to illustrate this. You know those maps that say, you are here. And as I say, keep saying, this is your book chapter. Chapter 4 of your book. Like I say, it wants you to do this all in one lesson. And what I find is that people tend to get hung up here. So that's why I spread this out into 3 different lessons. I had you learn how to identify the topic. And how do you identify the topic? I had you learn.
With one word?
What?
With one word?
But how do you figure out what word to put down?
You read.
Yes, and you look for the...
For repetition.
Yes, the repeated, the thing that's referred to or repeated most often. Yes, you guys are good on this? How to identify the topic? Okay, you look for the word that is repeated or referred to most often. So we've been working through this, like I say, but I'm taking it. We did this for 2 weeks, and then we did this for 2 weeks. Now we're going to move on to the main idea. Okay, the topic sentences. We're going to move on to this. Okay. All right. So we identify the topic by looking for the things that are repeated or referred to most often, like TV viewing and crime, or hookworms, right? Okay, then how do we get this? How do we state the main idea in our own words? Which I just handed back to you. And that's where we're running into trouble, where I'm handing back a few more pink sheets than I used to, which always happens, because people run into trouble here. What do you ask yourself? So you identify the phrase and phrase the topic. Then how do you find the main idea? You ask yourself what? What is the author trying to tell me about this? Right? So remember, our test for this is this. Okay? And the main idea is, what is the author trying to tell me about the topic? And then here's the test for this. The author is trying to tell me that. Okay? This is where people are running into trouble. This has to be a complete sentence. So a lot of the reason that I gave things back to do over or keep working on them is because your main ideas are not in complete sentences. Okay? So and this is why I give you the homework that is on a sheet, because I have you do more work in the homework than Lorraine Fleming does. I am going to keep going. I'm going to stick to my syllabus. We are going to go on to this today, where I'm going to move you forward with the next homework, okay? But the reason I can do that is because we're not stopping what we're doing. Again, this is the reason I paste the homework up. You are now going to continue to state the topic, continue to practice that thing or things. You're going to continue to practice writing out the main idea in your own words as a complete sentence. Then we're going to add this third thing. So again, this is why I paste this up and type up my own little things here, because what Lorraine Fleming is having you do at this point in the book, if you look at this exercise in the book, all she's having you do is read this and fill out a number here. And I say, no, that's not enough work for them. I want them to do more work. But part of the reason is because there tends to be a kind of a slowdown here in everybody's understanding. So I want you to keep working on that, okay? So if you got a pink sheet back, some people got pink sheets this time who have never gotten pink sheets before, and that's usual. I want you to keep working on it. This, for some reason, this is a tough hurdle to get over, okay? So what your homework, so again, remember, I'm introducing right now the homework for Module 6, okay, which is topic sentences, and I stuck this in here because that's how the book has it, but as you guys know, we already know all about those, right? This is where the book first introduces the idea of looking for the reversal transition, but you guys are old hands at looking for the reversal transition. And what I have been saying to you, very often, if the reversal transition comes in the second or third sentence, very often that's going to be the topic sentence, okay? So we're going to add to our, and again, I hope you guys are have written this down. You should have all this stuff in your notes in some form at least once, if not several times, because I've had it up here several times. Here's the clue for this. The topic sentence, so we know how to do this and we know how to do this. to find the topic sentence, you look for the sentence in the paragraph. And I think you can see now why I'm so interested in this, okay? You're gonna look for the sentence in the paragraph. Everybody knows this little mark means paragraph, right? I've kind of been using that as a shorthand, and I want to make sure everybody knows that. That comes the closest to what you wrote. So this is where it's important as the main idea. Okay? So the topic sentence, what you're going to do with this homework is, first you're going to read this part in the book. Like I say, this is becoming extremely crucial. You should have read all this. You should have read this. Now we're going to read this part. Okay? Topic sentences, testing your topic sentence. So you be sure that you are reading this in your textbook before you try to do this homework. Same thing, okay? So what you're gonna do for this homework, and this is not gonna, you don't have to worry about the topic sentence today on the reading and writing. That just goes up to the main idea. You're gonna read this little paragraph. You're gonna ask yourself, what is repeated or referred to most often, as we have been doing. And as we've seen, very often now, you guys have developed the skill to just do that in your first read through. Just kind of look and say, okay, yeah, I'm seeing men, wives, families, but it looks like the wives and families aren't up here. Oh, it's talking about men talking to each other. Men make statements. They tend to talk, okay? If men do mention, okay, men don't usually talk. So what's the topic for this, without really reading it yet? What does it look like is the topic of this paragraph? Men, yeah, and maybe specifically men and what they talk about.
Oh,
Okay, this would work for me, men and talk. Men and what they talk about. Okay, so yeah, so we haven't even read it yet, and we can already kind of pick up. Yeah, wives or families, that looks like it's only down here. It isn't about men and their families, it's men and what they talk about. So what's the main idea here? When men talk to each other, they like to trade sports opinion or discuss hobbies. Okay, now again, we want to not fall back on that idea of, oh, that must be the main idea, okay? Because you remember you saw something about families down here. We know there's something about family. That's not sports or hobbies. So is there anything, is there a reversal transition in this paragraph? Anybody see a yet or a but or a however? Sandra?
Also.
Also, good. No reversal transition, but there is one little list item, one little word, and this is it. Here's the thing about the work you guys are doing. These paragraphs aren't getting longer necessarily, but remember that all of these paragraphs are written for the specific lessons in this book. And up until now, Lorraine Fleming has given you some pretty obvious things. I mean, these things that say, here is a list, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is, real life doesn't necessarily do that. You have to do, you're doing more of the work yourself. So if we're thinking about doing a list, probably This is one of the things on the list.
Work, or,
Professional work, professional problems means work, professional challenges, doesn't that mean work? So I'm paraphrasing it over here.
oh,
So what are the other things on the list about men, what men talk about?
they talk about sport.
Sports. Okay, now we see, oh, okay, this whole thing isn't about sports or hobbies. That goes up here. Okay, no one can take the Giants this year. That's an example of talking about sports. My circular saw is already rusty. What's that an example of?
Tools.
The tools, which would be their idea of the hobbies, okay? So is there any, so there's sports, hobbies, professional stuff, which I'm paraphrasing as work. What's the other thing on the list? That's where this goes. So we saw those wives and families down here. That's one of the things on the list. So what is this a list of? Is this all a list of the things they talk about? A little bit, except what does it say about wives and families? Do they talk a lot about them? No. Okay, so we need to add, that's a little bit different.
No, it's short, they just talk a little bit about it.
Yeah, they don't talk so much about families.
Briefly.
Yeah, so the things they talk about are sports, hobbies, professional problems, but not wives or families. Okay, so what is this saying about men and what they talk about? What's the main idea?
Men tend to talk about everything in general.
Everything except
Oh,
their families.
yes.
Exactly. Men tend to talk about okay, everything except their families. Okay, now here's the next thing. You're not done yet. So you know how to do this. You pulled this out of your list here. What sentence in the paragraph comes the closest? Now that's where it really gets tricky. It's not gonna say exactly the same thing. Every once in a while you might find a sentence that's really close, but comes the closest. In other words, and I like to think that people in my class are better prepared to do this than some of the other people using this book, because I can say to you, what is, look at your list, okay, and ask yourself, okay, sentence number 1, is that a topic sentence? Given what you've already learned in this class? No, because that's just that's just 2 of the items on your list. So sentence number 1 doesn't work because that's only these 2 things. This is a bigger list, okay? The political and personal relationships. Okay, so what we're kind of doing is here, and this is important because here's the thing that I need to let you guys know. These are only the first 3 steps. You guys are going to love this. On a list of stuff that we're going to continue to put together the rest of the semester, okay? So what we're looking at with what I will eventually give you a title for this list of what you're doing. What you're really trying to do here is figure out what purpose each sentence serves, okay? So if you can go in here and say, okay, these two things are a main list item, and the sentence 2 is what? What does that do for us? Sentence 1 gives us 2 things on the list. And sentence 2, remember back to your why we buy thing? Remember that reading, and it said, people buy things because they need them. And then the next sentence said, people buy pots and pans and students buy books. Remember that? Mm-hmm. So the first sentence was the item because they need them. And the second sentence was an example of that. Remember? Remember how that ended up being set out? So this is the examples. And this is where, like I said, we're starting to see a secondary list here. Sports and hobbies. This is an example. Political rather than personal. Okay? Oh, we didn't put political on here. That's another thing on the list. Okay? Does it give us an example of political talk? No. Professional problems. This example is worked right into the sentence. A proposal that didn't go through a committee, a union vote that didn't go well. That example is worked right into the sentence. Wives or families, does it give examples about this? The wife is fine, the children are good. Yeah, so it gives some examples there. So what's left? What sentence is left? Number 8, okay? Men don't usually talk about their personal lives. Isn't that the closest one? It isn't exact, but we could fill in, this is their personal stuff, the families, okay?
I was gonna choose number 3.
Okay, so let's look at number 3. So that's what you're gonna have to do here. And you see where I'm getting this number from? These little tiny, anyone know what those little numbers are called? There's a vocabulary word for that.
That's
When it puts a little number up here, that's called, that's a superscript number, which just means it's same, we've talked about super, it means above. It goes above the line. Okay, so these little superscript numbers, these are the numbers you're writing down here. Right? So what about sentence 3? This is what you're going to have to do. You look at each sentence. Overall, they tend to talk more about political than personal relationships. That's number 3 on the list. So it can't be, if it's one of your list things, it can't be your main idea. That's the first biggest problem people are having with that homework I just handed back is this. The second largest problem people are having is picking out one of the details and trying to make it the main idea. So, and that's what I wrote on a number of people's papers. You wrote something down here and I said, this is only one of the items on your list, so it can't be the main idea. Does that make sense? Is anybody not here that? Oh, that's the wrong class. I don't need to see that. Let's see if anybody did that. These are all good. Where is Michelle and no, I think most of these were the complete sentences, people. Okay. But do people know what I'm talking about? I'm trying to think of an example off the top of my head. Oh, I know one that people did, yeah. You need your papers. Somebody said snake venom can cure cancer. Was that the main idea? Remember that one? snake venom can cure cancer. No, and what I said was that's just one, that was the very last one, that was the very last thing. It's not that that's not the main idea, it's true, but it's not the main idea. Snake venom can be helpful, can be medically helpful, is what cancer is one of the ways it can be helpful, okay? So be careful that you're not getting one of your lists, which again, is why I push that list, which is something Lorraine Fleming doesn't really do. So I really think this, over the years I've been teaching this, I really think that's maybe the most helpful thing that you can do. Okay, so are people clear on what you're going to be doing for your homework? We're going to this next step. You know how to do this. You know how to do this, but we just need, some people just need that reminder about double checking your grammar. If you need to, go back to the very beginning of the semester, get out those complete sentences quizzes, and double check. The other thing I want to remind people about, and this is something that I always say that I never thought I would have to teach this, but because of the rise of the texting generation, I really do have to teach people that a complete sentence has to have a capital letter at the beginning and a period at the end, okay? I never thought I'd have to actually teach that. And it's not you guys' fault. It's because you got stuck in the texting generation and you don't worry about that when you're texting. So when you are writing in your English classes, you have to have capital letters at the beginning and periods at the end. So I marked that on a lot of papers. I'm not taking off for it. I've kind of gone back and forth. Maybe one day down the road I will take off for it, but I haven't started taking off for it yet. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and hand out this homework like I usually do. And again, remember to first read the part in the book, okay, which will really be more helpful than what I just told you. Read the directions, highlight and annotate, phrase the topic, and write the main idea in your own words, and here, double check it against this, double check it against these tests, which I know you have written down somewhere in your notes, okay? Then find the sentence in the paragraph that comes the closest to what you wrote. This sentence might be anywhere in the paragraph. And that's one of the things your book, the reading in your book talks about is topic sentences at the beginning, topic sentences in the middle, topic sentences at the end. So check your work against that. Okay, I don't think I put another little reminder to you to do that. Okay, so here's your homework, and we'll work on that on Tuesday.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. What did I do? Oh, I brought the whole, for some reason I brought the whole 301 class. So I didn't need that. Okay. Let me see here. Okay, so today we're going to do our, oh, Gabriella did come in. Let me get some of these other people's papers back. So I'm a little worried about Sam and Michelle. I know they have both had, they've been in my classes before, and they both have a history of health issues, so they may be having some kind of sickness. Okay. Oh, and that's another thing. Remember, I did let some people continue to work on the midterms and I did not put deadlines on them. Did I bring my, I didn't see my grade book. Oh, well. If you haven't turned the midterm, if you're one of those people and you haven't turned the midterm back in, please get it to me as soon as you can. I'll bring a list of those and start writing notes to people. Okay, I don't know what I did here. I picked up the 301 folder and I didn't bring your grade book with me. I hope I have the, yes. I mean, I know I get confused, but it's really scary when I think I have everything and I don't. Sometimes I know I'm not getting everything, but when I think I have everything and I don't, it's bad. Okay, this is another one of these things that you are used to, and I'm just looking through it to, I think there's one word, on all of these there's one that historically students tend to have trouble with. So I just want to pick those out and kind of go over them, just to kind of remind you of what you're doing here. Okay, on this one, it's this one. When Giordano Bruno claimed that the earth revolved around the sun, as opposed to the sun moving around the earth, he was burned at the stake because his, how do you pronounce this? Anybody know this word?
Heresy?
Heresy. Okay. The thing about this is it looks like another word that you may have heard. Some students get it mixed up with this word. How do you pronounce this? Do you know that word?
Heresy.
She said
Hearsay.
She said Hershey, like Hershey chocolate.
As what?
She said Hershey, like Hershey
No,
chocolate.
now that's an interest, but that's, okay, no, but that's interesting because there's another one that you could confuse it with. All of these look good. All of these look very similar. And that's one of the things some of you in the Reading Strategies Lab are working on, is this, what happens with a lot of people, even with people who are strong readers. You see a word like this, and you tend to, like Rosario did, you tend to want to make it into a word that you're familiar with, when actually it's not. And you keep reading, and you think, wait a minute, this can't mean this, because it doesn't make any sense. It comes up again. You think, okay, I know that word. And you keep going, and then you think, wait a minute, no, something is really wrong. This can't mean Hershey. It has to be something else, okay? So this is the candy bar company. You notice I capitalized it. That's a person's name. This, you may have heard if you are one of those TV viewers who watches a lot of crime shows, where they're on those shows where they have the
Law and Order?
the court, yeah, the Law and Order. Yeah, you've heard it there. The lawyers, they get somebody up there on the witness stand, and the witness starts saying something, and the other lawyer jumps up and says, "Objection, that's hearsay." Have you ever heard him say that?
Yes.
It's exactly what it means. What they're saying is that person can't give that testimony in court because they heard it from somebody else, and it's third party. We can't, in the court, that's not allowable unless the person who actually said it is up there saying it. So this is a legal term, hearsay. That's just hearsay. It's exactly what it looks like. You heard somebody say something, but you didn't say it yourself, so you can't testify. Okay. Hershey is the company. So what does this one mean? Heresy.
Betrayal?
Well, okay, this is why I wanted to look at this. Let's write down Louise's answer. And this one actually has a number of meanings, but we want to figure out what it means in this sentence. This has very few, it does actually have a clue that you could use but there's also possibly a prior knowledge clue. What, from this person's name, anybody ever heard of this person before? Giordano Bruno?
I always thought it was the candy.
Okay, well, do you, what nationality is this person
He's,
from the name? You guys live in Monterey where there are a lot of people from this country. Italian, yeah. This is an Italian name. Okay, how long ago did he live? He's claiming that the earth revolved around the sun as opposed to the sun moving around the earth. How long ago did people believe that the earth was the center of the universe and everything else revolved? The earth just sat here and all the sun and the moon and the stars circled around the earth. How long ago was that?
17th century?
Early, actually a little bit earlier. It was more like 14th. But you see what I'm getting at? Whether you know exactly the right date or not isn't really important. But your idea here is this was a long time ago. This was back when people still believed the earth was flat and they still believed that it just sat there and everything else went around. They had no idea of outer space at all. They didn't know what we know at all. Okay? So that's what I'm saying about prior knowledge. You get, the guy is probably in Italy, probably living in Italy at a long time ago. So that's another piece of the puzzle. A long time ago in Italy, how important was the church?
Very.
Very. Okay, so that's what we're looking, that's what our clue is here. This guy is living in a country where the Vatican, where the Pope lives, okay? Very important, yes.
Is it still really important today, the
Yes,
church in Italy?
the seat of the Catholic Church is in Italy. So that gives us a clue, okay? So he's living in this country where the church is very important, and he's claiming something different from what the church says. At that time, the church and the government were the same thing, okay? And he was burned at the stake. What does that mean?
He was a witch.
Well, that was a punishment that they used to use years ago. What's a stake?
It's a big, it's wood.
It's
a
wood.
wooden pole.
Okay, so a big piece of wood. Okay, and if you said something that the church didn't like, which I don't think happens anymore, then you got burned at the stake. Let's see if we can find a picture of somebody being, oh, here's a good one. Well, I don't know, I don't know how to make these bigger, but here's a picture of people being burned at the stake. Okay, yeah, and these are drawings. I don't think any of these are, I hope none of these are actually pictures. But they would tie somebody up to it. They put a big piece of wood up, tie somebody up, and set them on fire. That was your punishment, okay? So all of this prior knowledge that we're kind of putting together, why was he burned at the stake? Because his heresy challenged church teaching. Sandra? What, can you
Oh,
guess
no,
what
never mind.
heresy
It's
means?
okay. Forget it. I'm sorry. I lost my
No,
trail
that's
of thought.
fine. Rosario, did you have a guess what heresy means?
I don't know.
Okay, Trutinga?
I'm guessing about what he claimed.
Yeah, actually.
Does it mean betray?
Luis-
Oh, betrayal.
Yeah, actually Luis is right, because in the church's eyes, he is betraying the church. So I would accept betrayal, okay? He's going against, that's what it really means. He's going against what the church taught. And if you went against what the church taught back then, you were out, okay? Yeah, so that would work. The other clue here is this word. He's challenging the church, his challenge to the church. So what it really means, what heresy really means is, what the word actually means is this, a belief against the church. If you hear somebody say, that's heresy, okay, and they still use that word in the Catholic Church. If you go into a Catholic church and say, I don't believe that Jesus is the Son of God, somebody's going to say, that's heresy. They don't burn you at the stake for that anymore, but that would be a form of heresy. Something that you're going against what the church teaches. But like I said, there's a bunch of different answers here. It's a challenge to the church, it's a challenge to the belief, it's a betrayal of the beliefs of the church. So this is kind of a tricky one. So I didn't want you guys just have to do that one on your own. Because yeah, there's a lot of information in there, but you have to kind of put it together piece by piece. Okay? The rest of them aren't quite that complicated. But as we've said, these are getting, I think, these vocabulary quizzes, everything is getting a little bit more sophisticated. So you really are having to put all of your skills to work here. I may have an extra one there. Okay, so we're going to do our same Thursday thing. We're going to do the vocabulary quiz and take your time with this. Read carefully, and then come up and pick up the reading and writing exercise. And on this one, you are being asked to do a couple of things that we haven't done before, okay? We've done them, but we just haven't crystallized them here. Topics, main idea, and then transitions and lists. So I'm going to have you actually write this down. I haven't actually asked this question before. Does this paragraph have a key reversal transition, which is one that turns the whole paragraph around? If it does, I just want to call your attention to reading these questions carefully. The answer to this may be no. Does that make sense? So read this question carefully. Is there a reversal transition that turns the paragraph around? Maybe not. So you want to think about that carefully. And then here I'm looking for anything that says there are 5 reasons, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Also, in addition, write them down. I want to actually have you do this here. Again, it's kind of formalizing what we've been doing. Okay, so no new ideas here, but I'm just asking you to do that. So you notice this is getting a little bit longer. You notice how these are getting longer, and they're going to keep getting longer. Okay, so do the vocab quiz, and then come up and get this. Take a break whenever you want to. And raise your hand if you have questions. Okay? Turn this back on so you guys can see.